I think it was the Dalai Lama that said that the elder Western women, are going to really make a difference in the confusions on our planet, the lack of caring of humanity. And I have an elder, a wonderful, wonderful, perceptive woman who is leading a group called Us for Precedent. My guest tonight is Serene Stevenson, known as Grandma, and with a wonderful blog spot in which you can hear a lot of her perceptions and meet some of her friends on Grandma Says Action Now blogspot. So welcome to the show, Grandma.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm really good. Well, it's really interesting because I'm in the elder woman category as well. And what I keep hearing that the Western elder woman is going to make a difference. So I want to talk about how you've led the parade with something you call Us for Precedent, right? Now, where did all that come from? Who are you? Where did it all start, Serene?
Well, it started in a 7th grade class that I was teaching in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it's really interesting. I showed an audio for my kids that introduced the first computer.
Oh, wow.
It was huge, like it took a whole floor. But, I just, in my whole body, I perceived that this technology was actually going to make it possible to have a world community of a peaceful world community where people honored and worked with each other, as well as the ability to have a different economic system, and a way that we can talk and get acquainted, even if we don't have the money to travel.
Uh-huh. Well, that's happening, isn't it? Right on.
Yeah, so it's happening, but what I feel hasn't happened is we haven't really got essentially what his potential is. And I think that when we feel that, that we can converse. The people in Washington, I call them, the men, mostly men in Washington, are not going to do anything in the next 4 years. It's going to be the same kind of stalemate government we've had. So to pick up the slack, we can use our computers and our cell phones to talk to each other. For example,
like they have in other countries over the Middle East and so on, eh?
Yeah, and you hear the candidates talking about jobs. Well, jobs has a power component. It has an employer and an employee. And in our country, we seem to have a little trouble acknowledging that the employee is the energy for the work, and it has an equal right to talk about that work and his opportunity to be there as an equal to the employer. And so it makes me laugh because there's work everywhere. Just work everywhere. And people say, well, you can't have a job, you have to get hired. Well, if we could establish a new economic system by talking on the computer and using our cell phones, we could eliminate money. And I really didn't need to start off with that, but that's what I've been thinking about ever since I saw a computer.
Oh, wow. And when you say us for precedent, then what you're saying is we can actually take charge of what seems to be a disparate system or an unfair system, eh?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the precedent is a play on words, because I'll say, I'm running us for president, will you help me? And they'll say, you're running for president. Then I get to introduce a new word that doesn't have much baggage. Precedent means be the first, be a leader, be a model. Instead of haranguing other people to be the way you want them to be that marvelous, visionary human being that each of us can be, and take it to the max. And people say, wow, that person's happier than me. Hey, that person's doing something different. And it's the idea that we can be models. And it's also has my spiritual value in it, in terms of the only way we can achieve our max as human beings is if we indeed take on our own fallible qualities, like the penchant for violence and meanness. And we got to get rid of that whole dichotomy that allows us to be other than a loving human being.
But Grandma, that's pretty big news. How can we do that? Look at the world. It's just boiling with hatred.
Listen, that's why I wake up at 3 o'clock every morning and say, Serene, this isn't going to work. It isn't possible. Did you listen to the news? Did you hear Amy this morning? The world is really messed up badly. And I have to start all over again every day, Veronica, to think that this us for precedent, you and me, waking up, becoming as one energy in terms of acknowledging that we have the power. We have, because we are human beings, if we change our consciousness, and it is a change in the way we see each other and what's going on in the world, and it's not easy. I've been working on it for about 40 years.
And you started this 40 years ago?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good
It was
for
even
you.
earlier than that I saw the teaching the 7th grade class, and that is the core of me, is being a teacher. And my idea of education and being a teacher is that I get to learn all the time, and I learn from everybody who wants to know.
I noticed on your website you have, and I think people need to get this at the beginning of our discussion so they can hear it again at the end and it'll solidify. But you've got steps people can take, a process of creating a united state. I like that. And as a precedent, I agree to make the following changes. Do you want to talk to people about what kind of changes they can begin to make?
I would like to do that. And if you want to read number 1, this is the platform.
Love of self and others as the motivation for my actions.
And, if I didn't say another word, I would say this we must do, because nothing else can happen unless we acknowledge what it is to be the oneness in yourself. And I teach that. I'm going to teach that at the Unconventional Convention, which we haven't mentioned yet. I'm going to teach 5 simple ways to practice being in the oneness rather than in dichotomy with yourself.
So you start oneness with the self and then share it. Then what? It teaches us how to be cooperative. It teaches us how to be respectful.
Yeah. And it may seem, it's important to me that people know that I say it sort of lightly in the mission statement. We need to capture one another's hearts. Hearts are so beautiful when they're laughing and they're joyful. And so Grandma says, unless we admire ourselves and take the opportunity to evolve our consciousness, I mean, that's an admirable goal and a tough one. And I am going to, I have over these last 40 years sort of like distilled a whole bunch of sort of fancy Hindu, Buddhist, or I've checked out everything, and I've just tried to make it so down to earth and simple that anyone can do it. And so what Us for Precedent is really going to be based on is the will of people to hear what I say, test it, and see if it works. And I offered that because I've spent a lot of time trying to help as many people as I can. And it isn't something that can happen unless it happens with you too. It's the 2 of us, and even better than that, 3 of us. Your hubby there too. There's 3 of us saying, we have hope. We know that we've made changes, and we're moving towards being a better person. And if I can do it, you can do it. And that's why it can be successful.
Well, Grandma,
no
is
one
that
needs
the
to be left
shift?
behind.
Is this the shift? Is this the shift we keep hearing about?
Yep. I do have it on blogspot, but be sure you have Grandma Says without a space, because there's another Grandma Says that's porn.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
I'll that out.
Well, instead of going through your list of how to create a balanced life, I think people can read that. I'm very excited about these other subjects that you got into in your blog spots. And you're very, this work is very sort of self-designed political in the biggest sense of the word political, isn't it? I mean, to me, it's the most human sense of the word political.
Yeah, people say, well, I'm just not interested in politics. I often have friends who say that, but politics is how we negotiate with each other. when you and I
technically it is supposed to be an exchange, but I'm not sure if we're exchanging too well right now.
That's the truth. I mean, say we're trying to figure out what movie we're going to watch tonight. It's like you're going to say, well, I don't like westerns, or you say, I saw it. It's like the conversation you have between you to make a decision about something. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is the basis of what Us for Precedent is about, is we need to communicate with each other as equals. And that's part of the problem is we separate. I think you are you and I'm me, and there's that we can't bridge that gap, but we can, but we have to learn how, and that means evolving our consciousness to what I call the oneness level instead of the duality level. We have to leave that behind. That's the divisive. We can't agree. The oneness level is we can agree because us stands for you and me in a united state of awareness, of consciousness.
And you're saying by using the word precedent outside of it being a play on words, it is each of us setting a precedent, beginning a new way of being. Is that right?
That's it.
So what about the unconventional convention? So is this a place for us to come to learn how to do this in a collective forum?
Well, in the middle of one of my 3:00 in the morning discussions with myself, I said, are you sure this is going to work, Serene? What's going to make it? How are we going to experience that? And I thought, okay, you're on the line, baby. I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach the 5 or 6 things that I'm going to ask everyone who's there, including the young people, to do for a week. For example, when people ohm, oftentimes you hear a whole bunch of off-key people and people in different notes. You notice some people are harmonizing. That's all well and good, but if you go to the oneness with the sound, I would make a sound, and you would listen to it, and you would make that sound too. Okay? So you're trying to join my sound, which is what language is. It's, the emotion in the language is really more important than the words usually.
But what about the sound being harmonized? Isn't that something we're trying to establish?
That's after we get. Everybody has that in terms of music and singing. However, this one it's sort of a different level. It's like first we notice that whether or not we're making the same sound. That's sort of like, do we agree? Can I hear what you're saying, and can you hear what I'm saying? That's when we're on 2 different notes. If we get on the same note, we can tell there's something different happens in the heart, and it sounds you're sounding it, but there is another quality, and that's loudness and softness. So if you make it at the same loudness or softness, you can't tell whether it's you or me sounding that note. And that's the level of consciousness that harmonizing doesn't go to. If we sound it, and you can't tell whether it's your note or my note, that is an empty place. That's the consciousness of quiet emptiness, so we can listen and take divine guidance from everywhere. I can hear what you're saying, and I can bring it in and make it one with me. That's what we're moving towards. Does that make sense?
It sure does. I like that a lot. It's like it's the sound healing core, isn't it? It's like
and I use a it went out of my head, a wind chime. I sound a note on a wind chime and ask everyone to listen to it until they can't hear it anymore. And in that process, that's another way to take people to the emptiness. Because if they're trying to hear it, they're keeping other sounds from preventing them from hearing it, which is a way to feel what giving your complete attention to something is like. Because mostly when people are talking, we're talking in our heads.
In response, or yes.
Yeah, I'm going to tell her, I don't agree with that. I wonder when she's going to leave. I wonder if it's time for dinner. we don't realize that one of the reasons we don't hear the other person is that we're busy talking to ourselves most of the time.
or we're blocking certain subjects and we kind of go south when we don't like it very much.
Yeah. And are we going to how are we going to get to know each other? I have some really neat things to try. And when we leave, will we know that we have been one with these strangers and friends, and that there is a new vibe that you understand and can feel because you experienced it? That's my goal, is a transformational experience, which is practical, doable. The kids can do it, grown-ups can do it. What does it take? The will, the decision, I will, getting closer touch with the divine in myself and in the other.
And in others.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me to think about it. So what you're doing, the precedent, is actually pushing people out of being confined by that model, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Even kids.
And when you stop to think about it, you listen to the news, and they'll say the Senate lacked 4 votes to pass and we'll hear them haranguing and going back and forth, and we could discuss the issue on our cell phones and on our Facebook and say, what do you think about this? How many women have had abortions? How many women out there have, how many people, male and female, use contraception? We can poll ourselves and get information, and we can say, this is something we are doing. You have no say in that. You do not represent where we're coming from. And so it would be, I call it a companion government. Mm-hmm. And the companion government sort of adds on to Obama's saying of yes, we can. Well, we're all criticism. A lot of criticism is based on he couldn't, he didn't. Mm-hmm. He said can, but it didn't happen. Well, that's because we all weren't on board, right, either with him or with someone else. It's like Grandma says, yes, we can, but I'm focused on the and how. Mm-hmm. And so...
Yeah, because all of their stuff is that he got blocked by the financial interests and the power interests, not through people's real opinion and desire, right?
Right. And when you stop to think of it, money has absolutely no value without our energy as it's our energy that is the medium behind the medium of exchange.
But if we believe money is the representative of what our status is, or that money is the thing that tells a story about us, then we're hooked by that belief structure, are we not?
You said it better than I could ever have said. This is a task. This is an old belief and an old dependency. It started off with rocks and mm-hmm. the very simple ways of recording by memory what a transaction took place, and it's usually an exchange between or among people, and it's a record. But they've taken the record as the substance and taken it and made money with it by selling the money back to us in salaries, or in loans or in interest. It's when you really understand how the money system works. The money system is absurd that we buy into it.
See, that's it. We've bought into it since humans became societies.
Yes, and that's what is so challenging. Mm-hmm. We haven't made the jump to understand that it's you and me that's valuable, and it's our ingenuity, our intelligence, our desire to make sure that you're happy and all your children are as happy as my children are. It's like shared happiness and shared delight that we're here together on such a beautiful planet to live on. I feel that women are the nurturers. For example, this is an action. I'm asking grandmas to come to the unconventional convention. And this would be an example. If we were meeting together, I'd say, grandmas, how can we save our grandsons from being killers? How can we change the heritage of violence that hangs around men since the get? Mm-hmm. How can we relieve them of feeling they have any responsibility to be for hire by any government to kill another grandma's grandsons. And I want to do a petition. I've tried it out with young men, and they said, I'll sign that. And for us grandmas, us women to say, hey, you may not use our bodies as a way to defile us and take us out of our culture as they're doing in Africa. Rape is as effective as machine guns in terms of destroying the lives of women. And so I think we have to take really seriously asking our young male children to look at their past as men, and that we as women do not expect them to protect us by killing, maiming, or being destructive to other women's children. It's not a matter of religion. It's a matter of respect for human life.
So many men are fodders for the machine. So are women these days too. Eh?
Yeah. We're not for sale. And we could take. That's how I see us using our cell phones and our computers, is sending different kinds of instructions and information to each other. We could vote on something at the end of every week. We could have a national vote.
Well, why don't you set that up? Because it will take more than oneness being. It'll take a concept and a consciousness. Eh?
Yeah. I was going to say any idea for change is not going to happen until we really love ourselves and love our neighbors. We've got to recognize that things aren't as valuable as we are. We're the value. It's hard to believe. No, it's not believe. We're at the belief stage when we talk about whether it can or can't happen. We don't know until it's our goal. We have to have a wave of willingness to try this new consciousness, because we never have made that commitment. If we recognize that that's the goal and a lot of us put full energy into it, it'll be felt. Joy and happiness and celebration are very much more powerful than having a meeting of hate and throwing stones. And they're both actions, but one makes you feel good and one makes other people feel bad. Hurts people.
I know we're supposed to be in the time of the shift, and I'm going. I think embedded in that possibility embedded in the shift is that great possibility that waking up is going to go like a wave through all people. Don't you think?
I feel it can be so.